And if you're going to miss this video, it's no big deal because it's going to be recorded. So welcome to another Viral ML show. My name is Manuel Amunatigi. This time in this video, we are going to create a very minimal, let me move my face here, there we can see it better, a very minimal looking forecasting web application. So this is what this is all about. It's to help you quickly get your MVP, your Python program, your machine learning, whatever it is, Keras, TensorFlow, scikit-learn, NLTK, it doesn't matter what it is, but to quickly get it onto the web using Flask. And because we're all staying in Python, that's the key here, is that we're staying in the same ecosystem. It's super easy to do. So here is the app that we're going to build. It's super simple, and in this video I promise it's going to be a little shorter than last one. Last one was way too long. I should have split it into two live sessions. So this one we should be able to do everything in half an hour, hands down. So this is the app. We're going to do a 5-day, 3-hour forecast using the open weather data map. So there's two things you're going to need, and let's go through them. But first, let me present myself. My name is Manuel Amunatigi from the Viral ML show. Let me make this a little smaller so we can all see it. And this video will be classified under viralml.com channels and web applications as usual. And if you scroll there, you'll see the whole series. We continue in the series of starting your own business. There are a bunch of videos. We started by creating a simple landing page. We did contact form. We did dynamic charting. We did credit card with Stripe. That's an important one if you want to monetize or at least test if your idea is monetizable. Discus, these kind of things. Last week was part 8, but actually I decided to make this one part 8. So this is going to be part 8, where we're doing the simple weather forecasting web application, because it's a little simpler, and I think we can, we're better off doing something simple on the web and then moving to something more complex. So that's the order I'm a lot more comfortable with, and I think you will be too. All this in the end will end up in my latest book, MVP Light Stack Field Guide, where the idea is to quickly, of course, just what I just said, take your ideas and quickly put them on the web so that you can share them with the world. So, like I said, you're going to need two things in this video. First of all, actually three things. You will need the source code, which if you go to the home page on viralml.com, scroll down, and where you have the the intro to today's live session, right underneath you have a link that will take you to the source code. So click on there. That's the source code that you can use and follow here. So the source code, eventually I'll move it to its proper place, but as the video is not done yet, we're going to move it later on. But so this is what I'm going to use for this video too. I'm going to use the same source code as you. We're simply going to open a new Python notebook. That's what I'm going to do. A nice clean one like that. We can all follow along. You will need two things to follow along with this video. The first thing is an account with openweathermap.org. It's free. For moderate to light use, it's free. So for development, for experimenting, go ahead, get it. This is a phenomenal weather forecasting tool. You can get weather forecasts from around the world, all the way up, I think, a couple days into the future. Also, keep in mind that whenever you're modeling, you build a model that uses weather forecasts, you're really building a model on top of another model's prediction. So it's a model of a model. And if the predictions are worthless, right, the model that you create is going to be worthless automatically. The good thing is Open Weather Map is not worthless at all. It's got phenomenal weather forecasts that are very accurate. So, it's world class. You're going to love it. So get an account there if you want to follow along. It's free. And also at PythonAnywere. And PythonAnywere, same thing. You go PythonAnywere.com. We're looking at, you got to scroll down, of course. You're looking at the beginner free account. And it's also for light usage, but also is entirely free. So, and I recommend it to follow along. So let's get going. I'm going to open the source code. And I see, hey Albert, thanks for joining. One thing I forgot that I did on this is like the second live session I'm doing. So one thing I completely screwed up on last one is some people were saying hello or talking to me, and I forgot to look at it because I was kind of nervous. Now I'm a lot more calm and I'll be looking at it. So Albert, it's great for you to be here. Anybody else is here, please, present yourself, say hi. I'm sure I know you. So it's just great to see everybody here. So again, Open Weather Map, phenomenal API. It's free. It's a REST API. So that's what we're going to use in today's application. Super simple, super easy. So let's get to it. Follow along, of course. For those who just joined, go to viralml.com, the front page. Scroll about halfway through. You'll see the following along code is right here with all the source code. So let's go to it. Move this here. So we're going to start off with just to show you how you call this this weather API. It's super simple. You do need a few libraries. You'll need URL lib or .request, import URL open. So if you don't have them, you'll have to install them. And you need JSON, which you probably already have on your system, because obviously that's we are going to get everything returned as a JSON string. And you need, once you have signed up for an account, you can get an API key. Again, it's free from OpenWeather. So my key is somewhere here. I will pull mine. You shouldn't be sharing with people, but I'm going to create one just for this video. Actually, I have it somewhere else. Let me pull it up. There, because we're going to need it throughout. This is kind of a key to this video. There, and I'll load it in memory. And so what I just did here is I called this is the API URL. So it's a REST API, right? So everything is done over the internet. We call API weathermap.org, the data, the version, and we're calling for weather. So the weather, we just want to have current weather. That's what we're saying. So you say current weather for a location. So I'm going to say Barcelona, where I'm at right now, and you pass your API key, which I just did. And it's going to return a slew of information. It's really interesting. It's going to return the coordinates of where you are, the weather. It's going to return, stuff like humidity, pressure, the minimum, max. These are in kelvins, so we'll have to translate that into Celsius or Fahrenheit, of course. There's a little formula there. Whether it's windy, and the country, even tells you the sunrise and sunset. And of importance to us, there is the time zone. So this is the time zone, the seconds offset time zone, which we'll use because everything is returned into UTC, Universal Time, and we want to have it into whatever. Like if you're looking for weather in Spain, we want to translate that to Spain. If you're looking weather in the US, you want it to your current time zone. So that's a number we're going to be using here. So super simple, but we're not going to be using the weather. We're going to be using another one called forecast. So let me scroll a little further down. Actually, this is the one I'm using. And now let me copy this guy. So obviously the difference between weather is current, forecast is in the future. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say a new location. I'm going to go for Seattle in the US. Same URL, except now I'm going forecast instead of weather. You put Q equals your location, and of course, as usual, your app ID, your API key, and the same deal. So now you're going to get a lot more data returned to you. It's actually returning forecast by 3-hour tranches, and there's a bunch of things you can do. Definitely peruse the OpenWeather map. There's all sorts of API calls and different services plans, free and paid, that you can get. But this one is free, and I really like it because it gives you 3-hour weather forecast from now. So let's see here. So we're doing Seattle. Seattle is middle of the day right now. There's just cloudy, it looks like. But this is what's interesting. It tells you the weather forecast from now to the next, I think, 3 hours. So it's from now to 6 o'clock. And then if you scroll down, the next one is going to be from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And the following from 9 o'clock to midnight, and so on and so forth. Here it is, right? So that you get these 3-hour chunks of time, and that's what we're gonna basically take this information and plot it on a web application. It's that simple. So let's keep going. So I'm gonna scroll down. Unfortunately, in the code, I put everything. So I'll clean that up when I finalize it, so you don't have to wade through everything. But you can, this is a huge JSON return string, so we need a way of kind of working this. So hopefully you can see it. Yes, you can. So here we're saying, show me, get this weather JSON forecast, which I'm returning as a list, right? I'm passing it to weather underscore forecast underscore JSON. It's a list, and now we can, loop through that list. And all I want is the DT underscore text, which is right here. So it's going to give us all the timestamps we have available in this return. And if I run it, it's going to show you all the timestamps we have available for Seattle. Remember, this is still in universal time, so we're gonna have to translate that. Right, it's not 6 a.m. It's not 6 in the afternoon in Seattle. It's probably I don't know, like 9 or 10 a.m. in Seattle. So that's why we need to translate that into UTC. Local time. That's what we're gonna do next. There's another cool thing is you can get weather icons, and let me show you. So this is basically, we're gonna loop through the same weather underscore forecast underscore JSON. So the thing that the entire clump of data it returns from OpenWeather and we're going to pull three things we want: the timestamp, right? Because we want to know when it's going to happen. What's the the weather and the icon of the weather. And this is pretty cool because here it tells you, this is the first forecast, the next 3 hours, immediate next 3 hours in Seattle, and it tells you there are clouds with a description of broken clouds and an icon. And this is what's interesting. This icon, we're going to leverage this icon because it's giving you basically an image for free that we can display for our own needs. So let me scroll down, and we're going to do the same thing, but this time we are going to call the ipython.core.display image display, so we can display images, basically PNGs, and we're also going to start playing around with the time because what are we doing here with the time? So here we are. Oh, the time is just, yeah, and I recommend doing that because we're pulling stuff from Open Weather. You don't want to bombard it with requests, right? We don't want to be like this, denial of service type attack. So we're going to put a little delay of 0.1 second just to be to be kind to Open Weather, and here it is. Now you see the time, and this is the image, the forecast image of that time. And let's see. Seattle, some rain, more clouds. It's not great weather in Seattle. I'm sorry for those who are in Seattle, but yeah. Oh, here, there's some sun coming up, and on it by the 10th, there will be some sun. So not great. But basically, this is what we're going to populate on our web app. Basically, that's it. It's that simple. So what we have to do now, of course, as usual, is to wrap all this stuff into a function. So let me go. I'm going to continue down the code here. One more thing. We need to fix the local time. We want it to be in whatever local time you asked for. So I'm going to call this again. We're calling it. So the key here I wanted to show was I'm calling again. This time I'm calling weather. So what we're going to do, we're going to call both the weather and the forecast. So the weather we're going to call to get the time offset, so we can go from UTC to the local time, and then we'll call the forecast to get the 3-hour forecasts and the icons. That's how we're going to proceed here. And if you go here it is, the time zone. So this is what you need to factor in against. These are seconds that you need to factor against the universal time to get the local time. And that's for Seattle, right? For whatever location, it returns it to you dynamically. So that's, we can pull that directly. We can ask, from whether a JSON give us time zone, and now we're going to have that variable we can hold, and now we know our offset for Seattle, for whatever you requested, is that number. So very simple. And now we're going to calculate that offset. We're going to apply a time delta. A time delta of, so we're going to get the current time, and we're going to get the time delta, and it's going to, right, it's going to take, so this is an example time I just pulled, right? 2019, 10:01 for local time, and we want to use the same offset. And then now suddenly, as you can see, the date and time are different now because we applied that offset. So that's what we have to do for any time, for any location coming in our web app. So if somebody says, New York City, get the offset, and then apply that, do a time delta on that offset to get the local New York time, time. Yeah. So, and here let's create a little function. Let's wrap all of that into a neat little function. So again, we're gonna loop through our weather forecast, and we're only gonna do it once, but we are basically gonna take that universal time. We're gonna do we're gonna basically take that universal time, apply it to we have to do some date transformation to get in the correct format, then apply our offset, which we've already calculated, and print the local time along with the weather icon. So let's go. So here we have to do, there it is, right? So the UTC time, it's 18. So now we can see it's 11 a.m. in Seattle. 11 a.m. when it was saying 6 p.m. UTC and cloudy, right? So basically that's what we have to do. Now let's wrap all of that into a clean little function so that we can, so that way, this I'm gonna ignore, we don't need, but here is a big function here. Let's do this. Okay, so I'm creating a function. As you know, we're going to move all this to PythonAnywere so we can play around with this on the web. And this is the function I called. So I created called forecast. we start with a blank message, says, hey, sorry, I haven't found that location. So the first time somebody opens the app, they haven't put a location in, we can now handle it. Sorry, I don't know that location, even though they didn't put a location. If they request is a get request, meaning you add a variable at the end of your URL, right? So it's, it's going to be your account, PythonAnywere.com, question mark L equals New York City. Then that's the get, that you have a variable L, and the value of that variable is New York City. So now we have a get value. So we take that location, anything that's L, and you can change it if you don't like the L, and we are going to pull the location out. And we then add that to the weather, the open weather map weather, to get the time offset. Once we have a time offset, we verify that yes, we did get something, right? We got a value out of it, okay. And that's how we check. Okay, is the weather JSON bigger than 3? That tells us we got something, not an error, didn't find it. We found it, and we have our time offset. Then we call it again. We're doing 2 calls every time, and this time we're calling the forecast instead of the weather. And now we're going to get that huge chunk of JSON for every 3-hour forecast, and we're going to start building our HTML, right? So this is pretty cool. It's a different thing I didn't do last time. In the last video, I was using the render template where we had an HTML template. Here there's no render template. We're doing the dynamic HTML. You can see it's going to simplify our lives tremendously. I'm starting to create this variable called message, where I started to build the HTML open, body open, and we loop through each one of our 3-hour forecasts, where we pull the time, we pull the icon, right? This is an image, and now we have the message, and at the end we close the message. So basically we have message holds our entire web page. That's it. So, and then we just need to populate it back. Okay, so I'm going to cut and paste everything. I'm going to go to PythonAnywere. So in case you haven't used PythonAnywere, it's super simple, super easy. I highly recommend it. I love it. I use it all the time. It's free. You have a free, the beginner's free account. I'm actually going to be using a free account right here too. So how you do that? So let's go to PythonAnywere. So if you're a brand new account, it would look like this. You could go to your web button. Let me make this a little smaller so you can see it. And the web button says you have no apps. So I'm going to show you how it's easy. It's so easy to create a web application here. You go, you push the blue button, and it's basically going to start a wizard and kind of run through everything. Oh, hey, Yuvaraj, how are you? I see there's a second person. Good. So anybody else who joins, please, say hi, because I want to see, a little bit how many people are showing up. It's awesome that you're there. So, just in case you don't know, just go back. The code is, go to viralml.com, the front page, and the code is right there. About halfway through, you'll see a follow along code right underneath the video. So if you want to see the code, it's there. I will move the code to its proper location afterwards. Okay, so right now we're looking at creating a website using PythonAnywere. So I have a PythonAnywere account, a free account, just like you would have. Click the blue button, add a new web app. We're not using domain names. That's a paid account only, unfortunately. So we just have a free account, so we can't have a domain name. Then it says select your web framework. Go with Flask. Your version, go with the latest version, 3.7 is fine. And then we're gonna go with the defaults. That's fine. It's basically telling us that our main web serving controlling code is flask_app.py, and that's fine. And that's it. It basically created a Flask instance in our slice in the clouds, and we're ready now. And it gives you your link. So whatever your account name you created, your PythonAnywere, it'll be that.pythonanywere.com. And I can click on this, and look at that. I have my own message, hello from Flask. And that's live, that's on the web. Okay, so we're looking good. So then you go to your files. Let's see what it did. It created, remember, my sites. So we go to my sites. All it did is create this flask_app.py. Let's click on it. And hopefully I'm not going too fast, but I'm kind of going through. Let me start again. I think I was going too fast. So go to Files, and you'll have My Site, right? That's what the wizard created. Click on that folder, My Sites, and now it opened it up. Normally, if this was a normal Flask application, you have templates, you'd have static, you'd have all sorts of things. Here, there's just one file, flask_app.py, and that's all, right? So if I could say hello from viralml instead of Flask, and save it. Whenever you save something in the cloud, you need to refresh the web server. So it can be done this way, or it can be done on the web page by clicking on the big green button. So click on that, and that's refreshing our website. Any code. So before it said hello from Flask, I'm going to refresh it, And now it says hello from ViralML, right? So you get the point, right? We're basically refreshing the code on the cloud, and every time you need to refresh the web server in order to update the code. So one more thing I'll show you here before we change the code to build our weather app is the web server gateway. This is important. This is how your Python code, your Flask code connects with the web server. This is the communication between both. I'm going to click on here, so you understand what's going on. And basically, you say this is where it says your project path to your where all your files are. And as you know, it's going to be home, your account name on PythonAnywere, and my site. That's what the wizard created. And underneath, you'll see it says from Flask app import app as application. That means this is your controlling file that controls anything that comes from the web, basically anything that's going to render templates, display information. The .py is implied, so you just put Flask app, and that's why when you go back here, Flask app.py, that's how the web server is connected to the Python file through your web server. So your web serving gateway. Let's put it this way. Anyways, if you want more information on that, go through the first video that I did right here under channels, web applications. Here it is. Go through this one while we're starting a new business, and because I go through it a lot more depth. Here I kind of want to go fast and quick, but basically this right now is our web serving code that we have. So what we have to do is go to our source code, and it's at the end of the page, you'll see the full Flask implementation. Copy all of that and simply paste. Remove all the code that was created by the wizard and paste our code. The only thing you have to do is replace it with your API key here. So I'm going to get my key, which is, actually I think, let me just pull it up quickly. There. Otherwise, it's not going to work. But let me walk you through what we're doing here. So we need a bunch of libraries. Flask, before we were running with Flask, but we also now need markup, which that allows us to create strings with actual HTML tags in it and say, hey, this is an HTML tag, okay? Don't print it as a normal string, render it as an HTML, as HTML, right? So that's important. And requests allow us to take values from a get or a post. Basically, whenever a user is submitting something to the website, we know we can now pull that value out. Date time, date time is to handle the UTC conversion to local time for a sleeper, so we don't abuse open weather, the open weather API. JSON, because we're handling JSON. A few more things. URL lib, like I said before, because we're calling a URL. The REST API is a URL that you have to call and get a value back. So we pass it our API key for open weather. We create an instance where we instantiate Flask. And here is our main function. We only have one main function, and we're saying that when you instantiate Flask with app, that's going to be that's going to control. It's a very important control for serving web pages, and it has the root function, the app root function, that says anything that comes to our base URL. So basically here, right, there's nothing afterwards. There's no slash, page 1, page 2. Anything that goes to the base page, pass it on to our function called forecaster. And that's that simple. That's all it does. And let me go briefly through it again. We have a blank message. We instantiate it by saying, we initiate it by saying, sorry, we can't find the location. If we do have a get value here, and how the get value is done, that's super simple. Let me go here. It's simple. It's simply a question mark, L for location equals, and whatever you want, right? We could put, Paris, anything you want. And that is part of your get request. It knows there's a variable L, and the value of that variable L is Paris, right? So that's how you're passing values. And that's what we're going to use here. So we're not going to have a fancy submitting thing. You're going to have to type in your location in the URL bar. That's going to keep things simple and fast for us. So we get the location. We make sure there's a location, it's not none, and we then grab the weather. We call the weather REST API call to get the time offset, right? Once we have a time offset, we save it in memory right here. That's how we get the time offset from the weather JSON. Once we have it, then we call again the same REST API key, but not weather this time, but forecast for the same location. And now we're going to get that huge chunk of JSON with all locations. sorry, all the 3-hour forecast tranches. And then here we're simply building our HTML page. We're starting by, by creating the HTML tags, and then we loop through each one of the 3-hour chunks, get the time, translate that time from UTC to local time, get the icon, and at the end we have an HTML. We close the HTML tags, and that's it. Then we pass the message back. We pass it back. We say message. We pass it that we call the markup function. We want to say if there's any HTML tags in this message, in this case they are, right, render them as HTML, right? It's that simple. So I'm going to save it. Hopefully it works. And I need to go. So there's 2 ways you could refresh your code. You could hit the little refresh button right here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's in the upper right corner. Or you could simply call, which I'm going to do. It'll be easier for us to see. Go to the web button and hit the big green button. And that's it. So we're nearing the end of the video. Oh yeah, hide your key. So yeah, no, I know. I'm actually at the end of the video. I will refresh the key, right? Because you have to watch out with your API key. So Yuvaraj, I hope I'm saying your name right, is saying you have to hide your API key, and I am showing my API key right here, right? But I'll redo another one. The reason why you don't want to share the API key with other people is the free account. I think you can only call it 60 times per hour or per day or something like that. So just be careful about that. So I refreshed my page. I'm gonna refresh it again, and now let's go to actually let's start it from here. And look at that, it is working. Sorry, I can't find that location, so we know it's working. And now let's add our get variable. So it's $L equal, and let's go with Paris. Hit return, and that's how you pass a town, a city, to our web app, and there it is. 5-day, 3-hour forecast in local time, right? So it's about Paris has the same local time as I have here, so that's correct. It's saying 8 o'clock to midnight. It's going to be, cloudy, and so on and so forth, right? So it looks like it works, and you should try this. So you can put this in your cell phone, and it will work, right? So basically, this is mobile ready. If you keep your web application simple and clean, these things can very easily be used on a mobile phone, on a tablet, right? On something smaller where you don't have a normal keyboard. And if we do a view source, look at that. That's the code that we built, right? So it's pretty simple looking, but as you can see, it definitely rendered the HTML through the Python code did a good job at rendering, rendering. So I do use this method once in a while when it's something very simple and I don't need a template, because it allows you to control everything, including the HTML inside your Flask function without going through a template. So thanks for watching, everybody. This was awesome. If you have any comments, any questions, please, you post them in the in the message board here. I can see that. And a quick thing I want to plug my books. And Albert, I know you already have this book, but I'll plug it again because it's kind of related to what we do here, right? It's the monetizing machine learning. Hopefully you can see it. It's probably seeing it backwards here. Hold on, let me change cameras. There, you see it normal now. Monetizing machine learning, and it's right here. It's right on, you can put my first name and last name on the video on Amazon, and you'll see all my books. But this is the first one, and we do a lot of this kind of stuff where we build, we take Python machine learning mostly models, TensorFlow, anything in natural language processing, and we port them into web applications so you can share them with anybody around the world. Because remember, the web is a display mechanism that the entire world can understand, and most of the world, as long as they have a mobile phone, internet connection, they can access. So a huge portion of the world can access it. So it's really a great way of reaching out. The key is you have to translate everything you're doing, right, in simple UI terms. People know how to do the drop downs, the buttons. You can't ask them to to analyze an AUC score or anything, right? They're not gonna know. So keep it simple, and then you can move even complicated models onto the web for the entire world to enjoy. And also, we did cover things like Stripe. So there are ways to where you hear Stripe. Part 5 was Stripe. So there's plenty of ways that you can monetize, and we'll look at a few more in this series. And this video again will be added. It'll be part 8 of this series. So hey, thanks for watching. So here's a question here from Yuvaraj. how to convert this to interactive mobile app. So that's a good question. I'm actually currently going through a Flutter. I don't know if you've seen Flutter before, but Flutter is really cool. And this is probably, in my opinion, this is the Flutter is really a smart solution. The problem is, it's a bit more complicated. You can't just take your Python and translate it directly into a mobile app. But what this will do is it will take your code and Dart. It's programmed in Dart, and it will compile it to either iOS or Android natively. So it's really powerful. But here, if you were the simplest thing, if you wanted to make this into a mobile web application, I would do kind of what we did last week. Last week we did that Bayes, the Bayes weather forecasting, same REST API call, and we basically added drop-down buttons so that you can't see here, but let me see if there is a. Did I put? Yeah, here it is. So you can't see it very well, but this is same concept, except it's using the same weather API. That's why I wanted to do a new video just talking about the weather API, because I think it's really cool. But here it takes the weather from the open weather map, but it asks you to put a location. So this one you can actually write it into the web app, and you have a drop down that will tell you the time tranches in the morning, afternoon, whatnot, and you hit the golf button. So it's going to go to the open weather map, get the data, run a Bayes model, and predict whether you will, depending on the weather, right? If it's nice weather, you can golf. If it's not nice weather, you can't golf. But that's the idea of a web app. So this is entirely mobile friendly, right? These things are all mobile friendly. The only difference with a true mobile web app like Flutter, for example, is you have a lot more control over your cache. So if, for example, you're in a train or you want to use an app that when you're not connected on the internet, these things are going to be useless, right? If you're not connected to the internet, you can't do anything. If you do it in Flutter, then you can cache that information. You say, okay, this person usually asks, weather for Seattle. Let's cache that. And the next time he or she wants to see Seattle weather, even if they're not connected, they may be able to get the latest cached forecasts, right? Something along those lines. So, this is what I would do with the simplicity of building a web app through basically a web page that is mobile friendly. That's really what we're doing here. Is so simple. This will work on any OS, any mobile phone, any even an old Windows phone, right? It's going to work on. While if you have to start doing Flutter, you have to compile them for one OS or the other. It's a lot more complicated. So super simple. Again, the idea here is that we want to be able to get our tools out to the world as quickly as possible, right? So that's why we do it in the web. If you see a lot of interest, then it might be worth paying somebody to do it in Flutter so you can have native mobile apps. So I hope I answered your question, and I see there's not many other questions. And I'll clean the source code up. I will I will clean up the video as well and post it all so you'll see it. And there may be another live video next week, maybe not. We'll see. Again, thanks for watching, everybody. Everybody who's here. I see there's a few viewers. I really appreciate you coming out, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again for watching.